7 years, almost a third of my lifetime, Jim Benning has been the GM of the Vancouver Canucks. And what do the Canucks have to show for it? Not a lot. Now, I'll admit, I wasn't a big anti-Benning guy for most of his tenure. Lots of his moves seemed a little iffy at the times they were signed, but each one of their own usually wasn't absolutely awful. But small error after small error after large error, and the pile of mistakes has continued to grow without any signs of stopping. Now, in case you missed it, the big news from tonight, Elliotte Friedman reporting, quote, "Not sure what to expect for a timeline of announcements from the Canucks, but word tonight is that Jim Benning was given indication in the last 24 hours that he is to return as GM of the Vancouver Canucks." Now, my initial reaction is this is not good at all, just in general. It shows the disconnect between ownership and the rest of the market. It shows ownership thinking that they are smarter than 96% of the Canucks fan base. It shows that ownership is putting their finances before the betterment of this team. And I think this is something that will come back to haunt them in every way possible. Now, I'm not going to break down all of Jim Benning's moves in this video. If you want, I have a video where I did that about 3 months ago. Click on the little card up above my head. You can go watch that if you like. Now, from his first offseason with the team, being put in the tough position of moving Ryan Kessler with almost no wiggle room, where it's rumored that he preferred to take Lucas Spiza instead of Shea Theodore. A small mistake that has come back to haunt the team. Trading a second-round pick for Lyndon Vay, the first of his many reclamation projects, a small mistake that didn't work out that has hurt the team. Again, in a vacuum, these are small things that don't add up to a ton, but the more mistakes of this caliber that you make, the worse things get. Trading away King's ransoms for guys like Eric Goodbranson, Brandon Sutter, two guys who just couldn't keep up with the National Hockey League game, and giving them insane, lucrative contract extensions. Monster contracts to guys like Louis Eriksson, coming off of a 30-goal season, but at the age of 31 years old, just to make a splash on a team that should have been looking at starting a rebuild. The bloating of the bottom six, giving $12 million contracts to guys like Jay Beagle and Antoine Roussel, limiting the team's cap flexibility to make moves to obtain actual elite talent. Some big misses on draft picks, such as Jake Virtanen, Anoli Ulevi, two top 10 picks that look like their time in the NHL might already be behind them. Now, this isn't to say there haven't been some good things that have come from Jim Benning's tenure. Trading away that Goodbranson contract for Tanner Pearson was a solid move to get out of a hole that he had dug himself. Making that big move for JT Miller, while it was a risky one, seems to have been a really strong addition to this locker room. And most of all, of course, some of his draft hits have been great as well. Guys like Elias Pettersson, Brock Besser, Quinn Hughes in the first rounds, and some later picks seemingly working out as well, like Jack Rathbone, as we've seen recently, and Thatcher Demko, of course. But the biggest strike against Jim Benning and this management group, in my opinion, has been the inability to multitask, the inability to plan ahead, and the lack of accountability that has come from this organization and the mistakes that they have made. And nothing showed that more than this past offseason, where Jim Benning wanted to make a splash again after a Cinderella playoff run, trying to put a big deal together to land Coyotes defenseman Oliver Ekman-Larsson. A 29-year-old defenseman who has been clearly on the decline, who has an $8.25 million cap hit over the next 7 seasons. A move that, had it panned out, would have hamstrung this team's cap situation for the foreseeable future, especially with the current cap environment. And in all that time that Jim spent focused on Oliver Ekman-Larsson, making players such as Chris Tanev, Troy Stecher, and Tyler Toffoli, who wanted to stay with the organization, wait on the sidelines without contracts, without job security, until he was done focusing on someone on the outside of the organization. Now, Tyler Toffoli recently stated in his article with the Players Tribune that he never so much as received a contract offer from the Canucks, a team that he said he wanted to finish his career with. Days into free agency, not even getting an offer from the team, he had to go elsewhere because he didn't want to be stuck without a contract, without a team to play for in this season. he signs a bargain deal with the Habs, and he has been one of the top scorers in the league this season. And this is all because Jim Benning couldn't handle more than one thing at a time, because he lives day by day, and because there's no real plan or accountability. At the end of the day, I thought the Aquilinis really didn't have a choice. They have a management team at the helm that the fan base no longer trusted. You'd think they had to do something to restore some confidence in the team. This crisis in consumer confidence. Halford and Bruff ran a poll this morning asking, does the Canucks front office need an extreme makeover? 96% of respondents said yes. 96%. Imagine getting 96% of people to agree on anything. Some people have said it's the silent majority of fans don't care about Jim Benning or think that he's fine staying on. Well, it's not a silent majority. It is the smallest minority I have ever seen agreeing on one thing. 96% of the Canucks fan base thinks Jim Benning needed to go, and Francesco, playing with his wallet, decided to go the other way. 10 years ago, 2011, the Vancouver Canucks were the class of the NHL, an organization that others aspired to be. Now, you have NHL executives saying that they are one of the worst run organizations in the league, down with the likes of the Ottawa Senators and the Buffalo Sabres. This should be a crisis for the Canucks organization. So instead of beginning a new era where we would have some sort of hope restored to the team, some sort of sign that, hey, the people in charge of our favorite hockey team, they know what they're doing. They have a plan in place. But instead, we get reports from Darren Dreger saying that they're having conversations with Henrik and Daniel Sedin about having advisory roles in the organization. Maybe similar to how Chris Drury was being groomed by the Rangers, starting out in a lower tier management role and working their way up the ladder. If Francesco Aquilini and the Aquilini family think that Canucks fans as a whole are so blindfolded, are so ignorant to the fact that they're bringing in these old names that bring back nostalgia, guys like Jeff Courtnall or guys like Daniel and Henrik Sedin, and thinking, well, they're not going to care about us, leaving Benning at the helm because they're going to be so excited about Daniel and Henrik Sedin being involved. We're not that short-sighted. We see right through this. More voices is always better, and if bringing in the Sedins adds a couple more voices to the table, then I'm all for it. However, it's not a fix-all solution. Clearly, at the end of the day, Francesco Aquilini is trying to put his finances first, and I think as a fan base, we need to speak with our finances as well. Personally, I don't see myself renewing my, albeit, not a big impact on their bottom dollar, but my quarter season tickets that I have had the last couple of years, about $1,300 a year, I can't see myself renewing at this point, because if they aren't going to put our best interest, if they're not going to put the best interest of the team to compete for a Stanley Cup, which is what all of us want, and they'd rather save a couple $1 million because they don't want to pay another GM while they're still paying Jim Benning, I think we have every right to do the same and put our finances first, watch the games from home. Maybe if you're going to a game, buy your tickets secondhand, because then the Canucks don't get a cut of it. At this point, Canucks fans deserve to be heard, and 96% of us clearly are being ignored by an owner who thinks that he knows better than the rest of us. Anyways, I think that's all I've got for this one. At the end of the day, I'm just disappointed. I'm frustrated that this team seemingly still has no direction 7 years into the general manager's tenure, and it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Thanks for watching.